Happy Easter week to you. As we film this, there are pounding drone strikes going on in Yemen that have taken dozens of suspected terrorist lives. There are representatives from a bunch of Western states that are meeting in the wake of the Clive and Bundy confrontation, talking about how those states can get back control of their state lands from the federal government. There's a lot in the news, but I'm going to swing back to it at the end of the program, but I wanted to use this moment to first thank everyone and to update you on our situation and maybe speak heart to heart, a dad to other dads or to moms, grandmas and grandpas, and hopefully bless you and even inspire you. For those of you who don't know, we have relocated to Memphis, Tennessee. We're in our temporary studio right now because one of our sons has cancer, and he is being treated at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital for acute lymphoblastic lymphoma. 50 years ago, he would have had almost no chance of survival. And thank God, due to decades of research from St. Jude and other hospitals, but primarily St. Jude, he has a very excellent chance of beating this cancer and living a long and normal life. When a tragedy of this nature strikes, it has devastating effects on any family, as you would expect. Very difficult. Emotionally, we were plucked up from our home and our family and our friends, and had to move here very quickly under great duress. Didn't bring a stick of furniture, not one stick of furniture. We brought books for the boys' school and instruments to play and some clothes and a few other family items, family pictures, and we took off. And due to the kindness of the Christian community here in Memphis, we were able to furnish a home, and we've been living here, and we're going to be living here for the foreseeable future. But a traumatic event like this causes you to focus and to reprioritize and to say, all right, what matters? Now, for some of you, you have had a family member with cancer, the loss of a loved one, a spouse, a parent, a child. The loss of a parent is different than the loss of a spouse, and it's much different than a life and death struggle with a child. I have lost a child to death and a couple of years ago, and now fighting to save our son's life. So these life-changing, sometimes life-shattering events cause us, if we're wise at least, to reprioritize or to look and say, what matters? And so I want to speak to you from my heart, a dad to other parents or other grandparents, or maybe you're single, but you want to say, all right, what matters? So I'll ask you, what matters? In other words, if you knew that you were going to die in 14 days, what would matter? If you knew you had a year to live, what would matter? I think most thinking people would agree that our number one priority needs to be the salvation of our own soul. Paul wrote in the book of Philippians, he said, work out your salvation with fear and trembling. That's Philippians chapter 2, verse 16. Work out your salvation with fear and trembling. In other words, it's a dreadful thing to fall into the hands of the living God. And we want to know that we are in fellowship with Christ. Whatever denominational background that you are comfortable with the language of, all right? That you know the Lord, or that you are, quote, saved, or that you are, quote, redeemed, or that you are, quote, in the grace of God, or that you die in the friendship of Christ. Whatever it is, that it's front and center in your mind. Now, you know that I'm an activist. You know that I believe that we have to fight in the culture wars. And that hasn't changed. Now, I'm going to talk to you about that. But it has to do with priorities, and it also has to do with our salvation. In other words, where would you rather work out your salvation with fear and trembling? Here in America? In China? In Saudi Arabia? In Egypt? Hopefully a chill goes down our spines when we think about what it would be like to be a Christian in those lands, because the very act of the profession of our faith in those countries, which is a part of working out our salvation, professing Christ, the very act of professing our faith in those countries is a criminal act. And so I ask you, do you want to live in a country that is free, or do you want to live under the heel of oppression? I'm going to take a break. I will be discussing the things that are in the news, but I want to get a glass of water because my throat's a little raspy, and hopefully make a few more points to make you think as we are here in Memphis fighting for our son's life. This is the voice of resistance.